All right, welcome back to The Burn, Beyond Firestop. I'm still your host, John Zalepka. If you don't know, this show is dedicated to life safety, and so I'm on a mission to find the most interesting people in the space to get their unique perspectives. Now, you can usually find me training people so that they understand where Firestop falls in the whole life safety end of things, but the subtitle of this show tells you that we want to get beyond that. So our hope is that our listening audience, that's you, walks away with an understanding of how our guests and their businesses also contribute to the promotion of life safety of whatever is being built. So our show is brought to you by Specified Technologies, also known as STI Firestop. We are a global leader in the fire protective industry. Firestop, we develop innovative fire protective systems that help stop the spread of fire, smoke, and hot gases. So our guest today is also knowledgeable on such things, as she helps the fire protective industry, and she's responsible for setting the marketing, product sales, and innovation for Lubrizol Advanced Materials Fire Protective segment, which includes BlazeMaster, CPVC piping systems, and FreezeMaster Antifreeze, all of which we're going to get to. But for now, please welcome Lainey Liotta. Hi, Lainey. How are you?
Hi, John. I'm great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. So what's going on? What's new?
Not too much. Just finished up at Easter weekend, ready to have a 5-day week again and getting up and at 'em.
Well, happy Easter to you. So
thank you. You as well.
So I always do my research on LinkedIn because I figured if you posted it, well, it's fair game, right? So
the internet's forever, so I guess so.
I like to start the show on a personal note rather than jumping straight into business. And I looked on your LinkedIn page, and wow. Where do we even begin? You've done so much. You've been involved in so many different organizations. You went to Penn State, great school. Looks like you had a double major, marketing and Spanish. Very interesting combination. Maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit. Big time GPA. You mentioned Delta Zeta. Shout out to the ladies over there. You've been a mentor. Looks like you founded a mentor program, taught English as a second language. You volunteered probably way more than you actually listed on your LinkedIn page. But, I want to start even earlier in life. Take me all the way back to second grade when you started that first business selling signs out of your basement. Tell me a little bit about that.
All right. Well, I've always been a nerd, for lack of a better word. But I like to consider myself a cool nerd. But back in probably, second grade time frame, we had a basement, which was basically a playroom in my parents' home. And there was this little closet. And for some reason, my siblings and I'm actually the oldest of 5 kids. So we decided that little closet in the basement was like really cool and very secretive. And, we could go in there and, play Barbies and things like that. But, my entrepreneurial self at age 8 or however old you are in second grade decided that, we could make a business out of this. So I decided to, we had just gotten a computer for like the first, when the computers first kind of came out mainstream wise, and I decided, I'd like to do something with a computer and a printer. And so I created the Sign Store, a very clever name for a store that sells signs. And by sell signs, I mean that we would make a sign on the computer using like word art or whatever it was back then, print it out, and then we'd sell it to like my babysitter or my neighbors or my mom and dad or something like that for 5 cents. I asked for a laminator for Christmas so that I could laminate my signs and therefore charge more. I took pictures of all my siblings and gave them lanyards. And the only way that they could access the little room in the sign store is if they had their lanyard on. I was very, very cool second grader. And I ran that little business till 6th grade, which is kind of embarrassing.
4 years. Wow.
Yeah,
so that's awesome. Considering that most small businesses fail after like 3 years or something like that. So
right. I know. We soon got acquired by big tech, so.
I was going to say, what was your exit strategy there at 6th grade? And what did you do for an encore in middle school?
I had to start middle school, so my parents made me give up my business.
That's so funny. So I guess let's jump to college, or I don't know, maybe even before that, because it says you studied marketing and Spanish. How did that come to pass? Did you grow up speaking Spanish, or where did that come from?
No, I'm Greek and Italian, of Greek and Italian descent, so no, Spanish-speaking language ethnicities within me, or within my family. However, I started taking Spanish class in, I think, 8th grade, and I just sort of fell in love with learning the language, and learning a new language. I'm from a very, very tiny town in northwestern Pennsylvania called Franklin. Most of you haven't heard of it. And
They have now.
but yeah, now you have. Not diverse at all, not really exposed to what the real world is like, and what other cultures are like and things like that. So, really just grasped onto this and decided to make it my goal to learn another language. And just so every opportunity I got to learn or practice or travel, I took advantage of. And really, really liked it, and became, I wouldn't call myself fluent, but by the time I got to college, I was like, I want to do something I want to continue my studies in this. However, I'm not necessarily going to get a job with a Spanish degree, or a job that I would like with a Spanish degree, so I decided I'd double major. I mean, it was no question that I was going into business, but I knew I wanted, a Spanish component with that too, so the best choice was to double major.
Has that helped you at all in the business world, that being able to speak 2 languages?
In some of the global roles I've held, it has, mostly, via email, being able to communicate via email and things like that. It certainly has. It hasn't been as helpful as I would think, or as I would have thought years ago, but I would still encourage anyone who might be considering it, or whose children might be considering, majoring in a double majoring in a language, to definitely do so, because I think it at least, sparks good conversation in interviews and looks impressive, so.
It's always been on my bucket list to learn a second language. I'm always in awe of people that speak more than one language. I mean, English is hard enough. It's like I'm always getting tripped up with this silly little language. So kudos to you for being able to pull off 2. But that's awesome. So how did you get into the whole life safety thing? I mean, I think you interned at Tyco. Did you always have like an interest in life safety or fire protection, or did you just sort of land an internship there and that's kind of how things go?
Yeah, literally fell into it. Only time I had ever seen, fire sprinklers was in movies where, they all go off at the same time.
Wait, that doesn't happen?
Common myth. I knew of fire extinguishers and, stop, drop, and roll and things like that, but that was basically the extent of it. But I was applying for internships, and Penn State had this pretty easy to use software where you were basically able to just click apply, and it submits the same application to all of these companies. And I just happened to land an interview with Tyco Fire Protection Products, which I'd never heard of. It was just, in Philadelphia, and I got an interview. And I got, a good amount of interviews, but that was actually the only interview where I didn't feel like it was an interview, where I thought I could be myself and didn't have to use all these buzzwords and act professional. And, first time going through interviews is very intimidating. So to actually feel like you can just talk and don't have to be, some corporate robot or whatever felt really good. And I just felt really good about the internship, and it ended up being one of the best decisions of my life to take that internship, because, I had wonderful management. He was actually my manager the entire time I was at Tyco. And just learned so much just in my internship alone. And at the end of my internship, they actually offered me a job for when I graduated a year later. So I continued working, part-time for them until I graduated. And then I came back to Tyco as the Associate Global Product Manager, and just, was able to, learn about every single aspect of fire sprinklers and, fire sprinkler systems through that job, because I supported all of the different segments and product applications. So it gave me, I kind of knew a little about a lot, which was just great exposure. And I think everyone will tell you who's in this industry, whether it be, fire protection products or fire prevention products, whatever, that once you're into it, you just kind of fall in love with it and the people and, sort of the cause. And I mean, I love it. I didn't grow up in it or anything like that, but, found it, and I'm absolutely in love with it, very passionate about it, so very lucky.
I understand completely. I also did not grow up in this industry, but it's sort of like the Matrix. Once you get in there, it's kind of tough to get out.
It is. I did try leaving, or didn't try leaving. I left for like 2 years, if that, and just came right back.
Yeah, so I guess let's jump for those 2 years. What company was that? Chemours?
Chemours.
Chemours?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I saw that you led a committee through the creation and development of the mentorship program. I mean, without getting into anything that obviously isn't proprietary or whatever, how did that work? And did that, was it something that everyone liked? Is it still going on? I'm kind of interested in that kind of thing,
Well, as far as I'm aware, it's still going on. I left the company about 2 years ago, actually, just a few months after it initially launched, and it was going very well. But, I'm still relatively early in my career, but especially at the time, I was certainly early in my career, and I had found that mentors played a huge part in my career development and professional development, as well as my personal development. But, the manager that I mentioned at Tyco was a large mentor to me, and I have so many mentors from Tyco, which, I attribute some of my success to them and just being able to bounce ideas off of them and learn from them, etc. And I realized that some people, depending on the position they're in or where they work or whatever, don't necessarily have the opportunity to connect with others or, engage in sort of a mentoring relationship. So it was something I'm just very passionate about, and Chemours did not have a program, and the idea was sort of brought up through, I think, an employee resource group I was part of. I don't remember which part it was, maybe like the Next Generation or something. And I volunteered to lead it, and we just, me and one other woman there, just sort of kicked it off and did matched mentees to mentors and gave group mentoring sessions and things like that, and it went really well. And something I'm very proud of. Is the first thing I literally created it from scratch, which I'm very proud of.
No, that's awesome. And before you create anything from scratch again, there's a group called Toastmasters, which I'm a part of. We actually launched a group at STI, so it was great. They have a lot of that mentoring and leadership development and public speaking, communications, things like that already built. So not pitching Toastmasters, but maybe I'll drop a link in the show notes anyway. But it sounds like a lot of that stuff, what you were doing there, is what we kind of do also. But good stuff. I mean,
what is Toastmasters? Like, where did the name come from? It's a very interesting name.
So Toastmasters is an international public speaking group. They've been around since the 20s.
Okay.
Not this 20s. That's like the 1920s.
Right. It's been around for 1 year, and 2020 doesn't even count. So.
Right, I know, right? But it's kind of like a place where men, women of all ages and backgrounds come together to practice public speaking, leadership, listening skills, and they used to meet in person before the pandemic, but now most clubs are meeting virtually, and you have your little Brady Bunch atmosphere, and there's a couple different speakers, and you have your counters, so they're ticking you every time you say some, oh, so, all those filler words. So it's interesting. It's very cool, and it gets a lot of those same skills that you were talking about with Mentor, only it kind of formalizes it. So
yeah, that's awesome.
I'll send you a link. Check it out, though.
Yeah, please
do.
Yeah.
So let's bring it back to the fire protective industry, right? So you came on back where it all began, and now you are the fire protection segment manager at Lubrizol, right? Working
Correct.
Specifically on setting the strategy for Blaze Master, CPVC piping, and Freeze Master Antifreeze. I see you do all kinds of stuff on LinkedIn. I think I've read a blog or two of yours. I watched a webinar that you hosted. I see you're on roundtables, all these panels. You clearly don't fear public speaking. But what do you like most about what you're doing? It looks like you're having too much fun out there.
I am having so much fun. I mean, even in the at-home world where none of us are really out there meeting in person anymore, I'm still having a lot of fun, loving being back in the industry. The favorite thing that I do, honestly, is just getting to work with the people. Honestly, the people are just amazing, and ones that I've established really good friendships with. Even outside of work. I think Matt Thomas, who works for your company, and who used to work with me at Tyco, and some of the other guys that we used to work with, and just working with the contractors and getting to just develop those relationships and sort of learn from each other and hang out and talk and have fun at the same time as we're all sort of driving towards this greater cause of protecting people and property from fire by getting fire sprinklers and fire protection products installed in basically every building that we can. It's just really fun and very rewarding.
I mean, clearly it's got a great culture and a great business model, or else Mr. Buffett, I guess, wouldn't have invested
Mr. Buffett
in it as a
was
Berkshire
divested us a
Hathaway
while
company.
ago.
So,
Yeah.
Has he been on any calls, any Zoom calls? Has he popped in there ever? Have you met him?
I talk to Uncle Warren every day.
Every day. That's awesome.
No,
But
I guess he did come to Cleveland one time, 5 or 6 years ago, but other than that, he kind of, he has better things to do.
He's got people.
Yeah.
But I was actually amazed once I started digging into Lubrizol how much you're involved in, not only from the fire protection standpoint, but also hair care, cleaning bars, sustainable packaging, vehicle efficiency. I mean, I went down a few different rabbit holes on the Lubrizol.com website. There's a plug for you guys. But I thought you would be a great guest because as someone who is a territory manager out in the field for STI Firestop, I first came in contact with Lubrizol when one of my products came in contact with one of Lubrizol's products. So one of my contractors was using LCI. It's an intumescent sealant we have around one of the BlazeMaster CPVC pipes. And, I was getting questioned, or my contractor was, on site about, is this okay? And, show us some proof, because they had heard that there was some, sealants that weren't compatible. So I thought it was great that I was able to find the website. I found the compatibility part, a couple different drop downs, and I was able to kind of show the inspector, look, it's compatible. So can you talk a little bit about compatibility and some of the other resources you guys might have?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that our compatibility program, which is called FBC System Compatible, and I'll talk about why it is called that in a second, that program is probably our strongest value proposition or most valued asset that we have for our manufacturers, our customers, the ancillary product manufacturers and ancillary product installers, et cetera, to the fire sprinkler system. Lubrizol invented CPVC 80 years ago, don't quote me on that. And we did realize that while CPVC was an amazing product that solved a lot of problems in the field in both the plumbing industry and the fire protection industry, there was the compatibility aspect that sort of made people nervous. So what we did is establish a compatibility program, and at the time our brands were they still are, FlowGuard, which is a plumbing piping product, Corzan, which is an industrial type product and also commercial plumbing, and then BlazeMaster, so that's FBC, FlowGuard, BlazeMaster, Corzan, systemcompatible.com. And so those are all Lubrizol brands. And what we did is develop our own, or the only way to really test compatibility of BlazeMaster, FlowGuard, Corzan, Lubrizol CPVC with products such as firecocks, such as insulation, such as paints, and anything that you can find on a job site, more or less, we are able to test and see if it is compatible with our product. And I think that is why we have such a good reputation in the industry and very strong brand recognition, is because we take quality sort of to the next level. And really ensuring that we have a robust compatibility program with lots of different manufacturers on it, with lots of different products. Obviously, our program isn't able to cover every single product in the world. That's just impossible. But even if, for example, STI, if you come out with a new firecock that isn't on the program yet, or you have a product that isn't on a program yet, we also have guidance in our section called Other Chemical Compatibility Topics that gives you guidance on what ingredients you should look for in a firecock, or look for in, an antifreeze or a mold inhibitor that look to be, or that are probably incompatible with CPVC, or that are okay to use with CPVC. And then if you can't find the answer, you can always just shoot us an email, and the email is on the website. So, I think it's a really, really strong point of being a Lubrizol customer is being able to rely on that program. And we have trainers and territory managers across the world, actually, who are always there to help and answer questions and things like that, train on compatibility, etc. It's something that we're very proud of, and especially because it only applies to Lubrizol brands of CPVC, so it's very unique to us. and something that I think is a huge asset to those who use our product or come in contact with our product even.
So, I mean, you brought up an interesting point there. I was going to ask, because you said Lubrizol kind of invented CPVC. I imagine there's other competitors now. I mean, we don't have to mention them by names, obviously. But is there a difference? Are all CPVCs created equally, or is there some, I don't know, competitive advantage, I guess, since you guys were first? I don't know.
Sure. So, no, not all CPVCs are created equally. For BlazeMaster, our sort of slogan is not all orange is the same, but that can be said for any CPVC regardless of the color, because CPVC is made of a lot of different chemicals. The compounding process can differ. The chemical makeup of the process can differ. At the end of the day, they all meet the UL tests. But the requirements that they have to meet in order to be put into a system. However, that doesn't mean that each that the compatibility of each product is the same. There are instances where our compatible product list has differed from our competitors' compatible product list, and vice versa in terms of incompatible products. So it's just always very important to go to the manufacturers of the product's compatibility program in order to determine compatibility. And the other thing is BlazeMaster actually has the strongest cell classification for fire sprinkler CPVC piping. So there's instances in specific applications where BlazeMaster CPVC pipe is able to be installed where our competitors' CPVC is not able to be installed. So it's always important to reference the manufacturer's installation guide to determine whether or not the manufacturer's pipe is applicable.
Awesome. So check out your website for all of that good compatibility and all of the information that you need.
You can go to blazemaster.com and then click on resources, and then you can click on compatibility, or you can, there's several different ways to get to FBCSystemCompatible.com, including going to FBCSystemCompatible.com. But blazemaster.com will get you there as well.
Awesome. So now let's go into the Freeze Master. I love all these names. You keep it in the family. Plus, there's a lot of Z's, and I'm a Zalepka, so anytime I see a Z, I love it. But so you have this Freeze Master Antifreeze, which is a UL-listed antifreeze that meets the NFPA requirements for all new fire sprinkler systems and all existing systems by the September 30th, 2022 guideline. That's kind of a big deal, isn't it?
It is a big deal, yeah. And I think what a lot of people either don't realize or forgot about is antifreeze for fire sprinkler systems. Up until a couple of years ago, when the first listed manufacturer came out with the listed antifreeze, it actually posed life safety problems, which is why there's this requirement that antifreeze must be listed. Unfortunately, back in the early 2000s, there were several instances where an antifreeze system, sprinkler system, was activated in a fire, and it actually contributed to the heat release of the fire and caused explosions and killed some people, unfortunately, injured people, and created more damage. And so NFPA sort of stepped in, and the industry sort of stepped in and created this new regulation that all existing systems, all new systems built after 2012 should have a listed antifreeze. But no antifreeze existed until I think 2018, 2019, when Tyco came out with their listed antifreeze. So people either were switched over to other methods of freeze protection like dry systems, or were just sort of still putting in unlisted antifreeze. But now there are 2, maybe 3 solutions on the market now that people are able to use. And then you're exactly right, John, by September 30th of 2022, you will need to have a listed antifreeze. And all systems, not just existing systems will have to be drained and replaced with the listed antifreeze, etc. Or sorry, 2023. Did I say 2022 before?
I saw 2022 on the website, so that's where I.
No, it is 2022. Sorry. I get so confused with my dates because I forget that it's even 2021.
No worries. But I mean, so that gives people only about a year and a half to like you said, drain some of these older systems and get like an antifreeze in there so that they'll function in especially the colder climates, right? I mean, that's crazy.
Exactly.
So do you offer any training, or maybe this might be another great webinar for you guys to even let the people know that might not know about it,
Yeah, we offer lots of training. Actually, we have an online training. We have, as I mentioned, more than 30 territory managers / trainers across the United States and Canada that will sort of give on-demand training at the time. For the time being, it's online. We actually have started to give in-person trainings on a smaller scale as well. But we are planning on doing a few webinars coming up in partnership with Viking, who sells our antifreeze product, Freeze Master. But you can also just go to freezemaster.com, and there's basically everything that you need there, including videos, educational brochures, and things like that.
Awesome. So I guess we wanted to talk a little bit about your committee work. I know that you're involved with a committee or two with the NFSA, the National Fire, what is it?
National Fire Sprinkler
Association. I'm trying to think of the acronym in my head. So what committees are you working on? Where do you see the industry headed in general as you're involved? And I guess you're seeing some things from behind the scenes also.
Yeah. So for NFSA, I'm part of 5 different committees. The Future Leadership Committee, the ITM, Inspection, Testing, Maintenance Committee, Quality Assurance, Residential, and the Supplier and Manufacturers Council. And I'm really, I really enjoy being on all of those. The Residential Committee is probably the one that I enjoy most, just because I'm very passionate about protecting families from fire and really, educating the public about the dangers of fire. And so I really enjoy the work that we do there, supporting advocacy for, legislation for residential fire sprinklers and just sort of educating the public. NFSA launched a video actually during the Super Bowl in some key markets in the U.S. Promoting residential fire sprinklers and sort of educating the public on the dangers of fires and what you should be considering. It's not just smoke detectors. You should be looking at considering fire sprinklers for your home too. So I think there's a big push just industry-wide for residential fire sprinklers, and it just seems like there's been a ton of fire tragedies within the past 5 years, like the Grenfell Towers in London, maybe it's actually more than 5 years, but the Polo Towers in Hawaii, there's just the Kentucky fire at the bourbon plant. There's just been so many sort of catastrophes, and I think the entire world is now more focused on fire safety in buildings. So that's just really something that we're helping to drive forward. In the U.S., we're pretty advanced in that, honestly, but in some areas of the world, obviously, they're a little further behind. So I think there's really just a goal to try and protect everybody, lives and property, as best as we can, and sort of educate people on how to efficiently and cost-effectively do so in order to keep everybody safe. There's also a lot of smart technology type things that are happening where you can integrate your fire sprinkler systems into sort of a smart building aspect, and it's getting really interesting to see how sort of the Internet of Things is being implemented into such an old industry like the fire protection industry.
It's crazy, isn't it? But you're doing great work out there. Way to be on the forefront of things and always, keep it nice and fresh and, giving back. Because honestly, like you said, at the end of the day, the things that you're doing and we're doing in this industry actually save lives in the event of fires. And unfortunately, it is some of these disasters that drive the code and standards and awareness even in countries that maybe weren't thinking about it before. So good stuff. Keep it up. But one more question before I let you go. Are you all doing a podcast too? Did I see something on your page? What is that all about? And can I be on it?
Yeah, you can be on it, sure. I believe our UK counterpart, like my UK counterpart, is doing a podcast.
Okay, I saw something. I knew I saw something.
Yeah, I'm not doing a podcast, or at least no plans to yet. We just started actually a monthly or a quarterly webinar series, so that's where we started, we're trying to get into the digital space, etc. But I will certainly ask Will Robinson over in the UK if you can join his podcast.
That's fine. I just tease. Is there anything else that you want to promote before we let you go? Any upcoming, like you said, webinars or any innovations or something that maybe we missed?
Yeah, I think that this would be a great plug for the upcoming webinar series that we have, Blaze Master Tips and Tricks. We are scheduling one every quarter. We just had our first one a couple of weeks ago that more than 400 people registered for, more than 250 people attended, so we're very happy about that. Got great feedback. So each quarter we'll have a special topic where we'll get our panel of experts together just to sort of chat and discuss informally the different questions that come out about those specific topics. So definitely be sure to check those out and register for those webinars at www.blazemaster.com, and then click on the training tab, and all of the options for our Blaze Master trainings, Freeze Master trainings, and those webinars will be right on that page.
Awesome. Lainey, thank you very much. I appreciated our time together.
Absolutely, John. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all the STI does for the industry.
Same to you guys. And thanks everyone out there for listening. I know that there's a lot of podcasts, and you've chosen to listen to ours, so thank you very much. And be sure to check out the show notes for all of the links. We had a lot of them, I think. So we're going to put all of those in the show notes, so make sure to check those out. And finally, if you enjoyed the show, please go over and subscribe to it. Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. Rate it, review it, whatever you do. I don't know, tell a friend. Because remember that friends don't let friends not know about awesome podcasts like this or like Blaze Master's upcoming one over in the UK. So until next time.
Be a good friend.
Until next time, this is The Burn. Lainey, take care.
Thanks, John.
All right.